Post, quote, "You cannot win in politics if you're not from an established family." The second of 9 children, Mahinda Rajapaksa, became president in 2005, and for 10 years, the country became a family business. As the family's influence grew, soon, other brothers, sons, nephews, cousins, daughter-in-laws, and other relatives joined the government, occupying top positions in various administrations. Sri Lanka was now a family affair. Mahinda named his brother Gotabaya as defense secretary, while Basil and their oldest brother, Jamal, were placed in charge of irrigation and economic development. Sri Lanka enjoyed years of growth, fueled by a mountain of foreign debt, but for much of their rule, things were going well. Despite some critics, many Sri Lankans were fans of the ruling family, not only for bringing up the country in social standing, but also for bringing peace to the nation. From 1983 to 2009, there was a horrific civil war in the country. A rebel group called the Tamil Tigers would fight against the government, citing discrimination. After a 26-year military campaign, the Sri Lankan Armed Forces militarily defeated the Tamil Tigers in May of 2009, and this brought the civil war to an end. At this time, the President and the Defense Ministry were brothers. After the defeat of the rebels, the pair were hailed as heroes. Mahinda enjoyed the adulation of voters, who approved of his bloody, yet decisive victory in a 26-year civil war against the Tamil rebels. But it wasn't a squeaky clean image for the brothers. Allegations of corruption, including questionable deals with Chinese state counterparts, swirled around Mahinda. His brother, Gotabaya, was also implicated, though to a lesser extent. He was facing scrutiny over the purchase of MiG fighters from Ukraine. But these scandals didn't stop the family from spending big. He promised huge infrastructure projects, including a Chinese-built airport, which sits largely empty. He tried to jumpstart growth by borrowing heavily and attracting foreign capital by propping up the Sri Lankan rupee. In the short term, the strategy worked. The economy boomed, causing a per capita gross domestic product to more than double from 2006 to 2014. This vaulted Sri Lanka past Ukraine, the Philippines, and Indonesia. It lifted 1.6 million people out of poverty and gave rise to a large middle class. By 2019, Sri Lanka ascended to the ranks of the World Bank's upper middle income countries. Though all of that growth came at a cost, Sri Lanka's external debt tripled from 2006 to 2012, pushing total public debt to 119% of GDP. In 2015, these policies were suspended, but the debt continued to accumulate. With each passing year, the family government made even more mistakes. Each mistake led to ever greater risk. When the military brother, Gotabaya, got into power in 2019, he promised tax cuts to get elected. When this came around, the government lost 25% of its revenue. To make things worse, in 2020, COVID smashed tourism. For Sri Lanka, tourist income was a huge source of funding to pay back foreign debt. Then, 2021 rolls around, and Russia and Ukraine go to war. In an ill twist of fate, before the war, Russians frequently made up the biggest share of Sri Lankans' tourists, with Ukrainians not far behind. As the flights to Moscow were suspended and the Ukrainians are at war, Sri Lanka's tourism industry suffers even more. In April of 2021, the Rajapaksa government made another fatal mistake. To prevent the drain of foreign exchange reserves, all fertilizer imports were completely banned. This move was extremely radical, as no country can feasibly run their food supply on 100% organic fertilizer on a whim. Farmers overnight had to stop producing, and the food supply collapsed. The country had to start importing rice and other food goods, and the price of food exploded. Rubber and tea, 2 major exports, also ground to a halt. The government reversed the policy in November of 2021, but the damage was already done.
Last year, in a highly controversial move, the Sri Lankan government banned the use and import of chemical fertilizers overnight in a bid to become
22 million and an independent island off the coast of southern India. Not long ago, they were South Asia's most developed nation. But right now, they're in a severe economic crisis. The country is $51 billion in debt. Rolling blackouts are rampant. The currency is crashing. Medication, fuel, and some food is in short supply. Even school exams had to be cancelled because of the shortage of printing paper.